street corner is going to be a fighting position.
Yes.
They're going to make them pay for every single inch, and they don't have the means to do it. So I get really frustrated with, and this is a problem in the narrative that Americans need to be more well aware of, is the Russians can't win. I mean, it's not a matter of, like, oh, where will they be at the end of the war? Or, oh, they're going to launch an offensive that's going to break through and then they're just going to run havoc through Ukraine. No way. Absolutely not.
No.
They don't have it. They don't have it in them to win what they need to do to win, to make it worthwhile to have lost 1 million men.
Well, and then they have to keep it too.
No world leader. And then they have to keep it. And no world leader, including Vladimir Putin, can survive that.
I will tell you, I will take the 700,000 Ukrainians that literally are now as tough as leather because they have been fighting for their homeland since this bullshit started. Understand that I saw something not too long ago that literally said that like 90% of Russia's military that was alive when this war started are gone. They're gone. So the 1.2 million that they have right now lack the combat experience. You may say, okay, we're going to go ahead and grab another 100,000 troops out of high school and put uniforms on them. They will not be able to defend themselves, even if they have far superior equipment, to the Ukrainians who know the ground, who are masters at the UAV fight, better than probably anybody on the face of the earth right now, to include even us. Because once again, they've been using it every single day to their advantage. So this 1.2 million, if they want to cross that border into Ukraine, and that 700,000 Ukrainians that are absolutely hard as woodpecker lips, make no mistake about it. I'm going to tell you right now, Russia, Philip's right, they can't win this. Because they can't take the ground, and if they do take the ground, there's no damn way they're going to be able to keep that ground. And it's when you're in a house to house, my goodness gracious, and you're fighting people that own the house, they're not going to go quietly. It's not. There's no surrender here, and that's the thing too, is Russia is cruel. There's going to come a war crimes commission from this. And there's, with the rapes and the murders of innocent people, there's a lot of people. As a matter of fact, in World War II, there was a situation where the Germans had captured some Americans. And I believe it was around the Bastogne area. And the thing was that they didn't have the ability to take the Americans back to where they could turn them in as prisoners. So what they did is they said, hey, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to line them up and we're going to shoot them. Let me tell you something. They lined everybody up and they opened fire. And a couple of the people that were standing in that group getting shot and killed actually ran and was able to make it to freedom. And the moment that they let the Americans know that, hey, they're killing the captured, no more friggin', you no longer surrender. Because we can no longer promise that you're going to go to a prison where you're going to be treated with respect. So what does that mean? That means we fight to the friggin' death. And that's the way the Ukrainians are living right now. They will fight to the death. Russia don't have the training. And once again, that 1,200, that 1.2 million, 1 million of those people are brand new 19-year-olds who just got handed a weapon and sent to friggin' the war zone.
Well, and you're thinking in U.S. numbers in terms of brand new 19-year-olds. There's a lot of brand new 37-year-olds in that they're pulling, right? In Russia. They already did that. Phil, you were, we talked about in like a year and a half ago how Russia did this whole big thing of like, all right, we sent in the B team to start this whole thing. Now we're sending in the A team to clear this thing out. And there was this whole big thing about how like they saved the good fighters for this big push that they were going to do. Those people are all dead. They're all dead. All the alleged A-team people that they were talking about died a year and a half ago, and that's before they started pulling guys out of prisons and borrowing people from North Korea and having. Let me. There's no other way to put this except for Russia is using slave soldiers, because that's what a North Korean soldier is. If the North Koreans say go fight for Russia, you have to, or they will just kill you and your whole family. That's not indentured servitude. That's not forced labor. It's fucking slavery.
And what have we saw? We saw the North Koreans enter the fight and get shellacked. They're literally using like human waves. You know, they're not equipped.
And the ones with any brains at all, it seems, or that had the tactical ability or the time to do it, turn themselves in and say, hey, do me a favor, pretend I'm dead. Don't ever tell them, I'll tell you everything I know, but don't ever send notice home, because if they find out I'm not dead, they're going to kill my family. And that's what I'm talking about, where these are slave soldiers. And I think that languaging is super important when talking about this, to clarify Russia versus Ukraine and who's the aggressor, who's the bad guy in this circumstance.
Russia exposed not just themselves, but they exposed every dictatorship in the world. Yeah. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm at this point where I know that China has the numbers on everybody, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they know how to fight. You know, the North Koreans, and let me tell you something, I doubt very seriously that Kim Jong-un would send his worst to go over on a national stage and fight. Those were the best. And they proved to be garbage. When Russia invaded Ukraine, I said this on day 3, because they were in the outskirts of Kyiv and their vehicle tires, the tread was falling off, because they have no preventive maintenance checks and services like we have in the military. Every single Monday, I don't give a shit if you're a combat troop or not, you got equipment. And every Monday, you got a PMCS, every one of those pieces of equipment. You know, every once in a while, every month you got to do your masks. I mean, everything has to be looked at. And you know, if you don't move your vehicles, then what happens is the tires dry rot. That's what it is. The only vehicles that see action in Russia, in North Korea, and probably in China are the vehicles that they use for those military parades that they have every single month. Other than that, their shit just sits in a daggone motor pool, and it sits there forever until they need to use it. And when they needed to use it, it showed. It failed them because they don't know how to take care of their equipment.
Well, and Phil, this, you know, we've talked about
the corruption of them selling stuff.
The generals get a budget, and they get to spend it, you know, at their own discretion. And what they say is, okay, instead of buying the good weapons, I'm going to buy these cheap ones off of the black market, and I'm going to put the rest in my pocket. And that's the thing, corruption.
Well, that's why I was saying, you know, the entire time, you know, Phil and Richard, the deep shelf stuff is the first thing you let go. When you're corrupt, the first thing you do, if you're going to steal from the military or steal, you know, materials or whatever the hell, you steal the stuff you don't expect to use anytime soon, right? Which is why I don't think their nukes work, period. That's why I think the Russians know this. They are aware that their stuff is garbage, because if they're not keeping up the tires on the vehicles they don't think they'll use in battle, do you think every lug nut is tightened on the nukes? Again, China had this same problem. They had missiles where the fuel tanks were filled with water because nobody ever expected them to launch, because they were just for show. So Xi Jinping could walk by and point at them, go, look at all these gleaming things. It is, you know, and we're in danger in the United States, I would argue, by getting rid of IGs and Hegseth's mismanagement of the DOD, of entering a situation where that kind of corruption can happen. And if it's Trump's buddies, he won't give a shit. He just wants to see, like, if you ran inflatable tanks down the street on 4th of July and Trump could watch from the window, he'd clap like a harbor seal and think he'd won the WWE belt. Like, he's that dough-headed about this shit. But so it'd be easier even to do it. I think the interesting thing is our military is more honorable than the commander in chief. So they wouldn't do it because, Major, like you, they know this is necessary. They know maintenance and the keeping up of your arms is it saves lives down the line. If something does happen, God forbid, you're not sending them out there. I mean, remember the whole we didn't have up armored Humvees.
I went into Iraq in what we called hillbilly armor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is never going to happen again in the United States, because we learned that lesson during the Iraq War, because after the first Iraq War, honestly, most people in the 90s thought that kind of warfare was a thing of the past. For the most part, they thought we'd do little Grenada-like things going forward into the future at best, right? And then here comes Bush and Cheney, and again, most of what's happening in the Trump White House is an extension, is the ad absurdum or ad infinitum version of the Trump, supreme executive power of the presidency and the military based strength position point, peace through strength, all that nonsense. That all comes from, I mean, it's not new. It's just a dumber, weaker version of it.
Yeah, if Russia was as good as we thought that they were,
right,
Ukraine would not have a chance.
Yes.
But once again, we know corruption. We know, it's like in North Korea. They say that if North Korea ever decides to launch an attack on South Korea, 1 million rounds will land in Seoul within the first 24 hours. But also understand that we also know that all of those rounds have been sitting in dank, dark caves since the 1950s. And we believe that a large percentage of those will end up being duds.
Right.
So it's like you have what the enemy wants you to think, and then you have reality.
Yeah.
And the thing is that right now Russia is nowhere near as awesome as we gave them credit to be. And the Ukrainian people, we never thought that a group of civilian citizens could stand up and wage war in the way that they are. And to me, the Ukrainian citizen is absolutely a warrior and will be remembered as such throughout history. In the end, the Ukrainian people will be standing, and the Russians won't.
Yeah.
And they're about to get an absolute shellacking.
Yeah.
When they come over the border, I don't care how long. So you have about 1,000-kilometer frontline area, which is 800 miles, if I'm doing my arithmetic off the top of my head correctly. 800-mile stretch of land in which the expectation here in Ukraine is that they're going to do a massive along several pressure points within that 800-mile frontline area. One, they're going to get a shellacking because the Ukrainians have been, you got to understand, the Ukrainians have been digging in, not for 3 years. They've been digging in for 10. Ever since 2014, they always knew that the Russians would eventually come. I have, and not to repeat myself too often, but I have been out east and I have seen, Major, this is a term you'll probably understand very well, strategic defense in depth. And what that means is they have been digging trenches and defensive fighting positions and anti-tank defensive, these dragon teeth things, mile after mile after mile. So all they have to do is hold them as long as they possibly can, make them lose as many soldiers, tanks, infantry fighting vehicles, drones, whatever resource they have, material, and then they just fall back to the next line, and they do it again, and then they fall back to the next line, and then they fall back to the next line.
Absolutely beautiful. It's beautiful. It works.
They're going to tear them up.
In South Korea, if you were at the JSA, which that's the border, let me tell you something. Good point. When the siren goes off, every soldier that's at the JSA and Camp Boniface, they've got like 7 minutes to grab their shit. And these are people that when you're stationed there, they very rarely will get an opportunity to go down to Seoul and enjoy things. They're stationed there. But if that happens, they got 7 minutes to get south past this thing called a rock drop. and you've got rice paddies, and guess what? Tanks don't work well in rice paddies. They got to go down this main road. But there's a rock drop that as soon as 7 minutes hit, there's an explosion and it drops that rock. And oh, by the way, it's not an obstacle unless you have eyes on it. So we've got troops back here that know that when that rock drop hits, they've got so much time to bombard the shit out of every vehicle that gets near that rock drop. And they estimate that it'll take a lot of loss of life, but in about, let's say, 30 minutes to an hour, they'll get through that first rock drop. Then everybody's got another 5 minutes to get past this point, which is another rock drop. And you just keep hammering. And what Philip said is absolutely spot on. You know, you've got Ukrainian troops that are going to absolutely go head on with these Russians crossing the border. But there's going to be a certain number, there's a time limit, there's going to be a sound that they're going to basically just move back and get back into even more secure positions. And every time the Russians get closer, they're just going to start getting picked off. It will break the back of the Russians.
None of these moves, none of these major offenses by the Russians have amounted to a hill of beans. And the biggest example is this, you know, the idea that it was going to be a 6-day war to start with, and they were going to take Kyiv by the weekend, right? That is an example of like hubris, bad planning, and shit gear and undertrained troops, all the no's that you have about a battle squad, all happening at once. Let me show you something. You said something about
I want to make one other quick point about this, though. There are these guys. Look, there are guys online who do this whole like open source intelligence stuff, and they're all doom spreaders. They've never been here. They don't know the lay of the land. Right. They may have served for a while in an armed force here or an armed force there, but they don't know the situation here. And a lot of people, these again doom spreaders, are saying, "Oh, they're going to break through the Ukrainian lines, and then they're going to just run roughshod. They're going to be all like over it's World War Z. Ukraine. Yeah, like Ukraine's rear, and they're just going to run absolute havoc. Bullshit. Absolute bullshit. They have. So what folks who are, you know, rooting for Russia to be successful, or they have a mindset that Russia is some sort of inevitability and they're unstoppable and it's only a matter of time. Right. If they break through a line, it will not turn from what has been referred to as a war of attrition, which is basically let's just kill one another until one side or the other can no longer defend. Right. And it would turn from a war of attrition to a war of maneuver, meaning that you'd have massive pincer moves and strike forces heading out this way or that way. Also, bullshit. They're going to, if they break through a Ukrainian line, they're going to find a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen lines behind them. So where are they going to maneuver to? All they're going to do is break through one Ukrainian line and find themselves yet again in another static line of war of attrition. This is not going to be a breakthrough. I am confident of that.
It's invading Waterloo. It's invading Waterloo in the winter. There's nothing that they can do about it. And oh, by the way,
it's Pickett's charge. And it's Pickett's charge from your neck of the woods, Major. If you've been out to Donbass, it is mile and mile and mile of slow grade rising to a tree line or a defensive line position, and then it drops down, and it's another open field of no defense, and you are slogging your way up towards it's Pickett's charge times 100, because you're going to have to do it 100 times.
Well, I'm
not pessimistic about.
Not at all. And I would argue that there's a major reason for that, Major. Let me share this with you real quick, though, that you brought up the point that there is a deadline, there's a shelf life on this attack no matter what happens. And there is a number of forces that they can, afford to lose or not afford to lose in this attack or whatever. And I would offer to you, gentlemen, that number is somewhere in the order of 85,000, which is less, if you use the death rate that they've been going through, less than 90 days. They cannot fight longer than 90 days at this rate. And if they do a harder push that results in more casualties, it shortens it maybe even to 60 days. Because, if I may, this is the current number, 915,230 troops that they have lost. 85,000, that brings us to 1 million, ladies and gentlemen. 1 million people to gain, a Toledo suburb over what you had last time, in terms of the area that they had control over. Like the waste of human life. And this is where I think Trump is getting this whole, like, this is for nothing, because his generals and the people around him are saying to him, like, this ain't gonna happen. Even if the Russians, he likes to be the smart guy. When he was talking about that whole, you're waving the white flag because you're using Russian oil thing at Merkel, that was one of his generals telling them that they are so allied with Russia for their energy needs that they're not gonna be helpful in this situation. And so he said he waved a white flag, and it was a napkin or whatever that he gestured with allegedly in this situation. He's talking like he knows this number. He's talking like somebody has shown him this number recently. Whether it really lands is one thing, but
let me also tell you, if you look at the loss of equipment, tanks,
right.
Every single tank that they send across that damn border is getting schwacked.
Yeah.
In the beginning of this war, I believe that it was like Russia has over 11,000 tanks. They have lost 10,496 tanks. Now, I know that they're also making tanks, but they're only able to make like between 25 and 50 tanks a month. They're losing 50 tanks a week in Ukraine. So they've lost 21,819 armored fighting vehicles. Those are like our Bradleys. They've lost 42,593 wheeled vehicles / fuel tanks. They've lost 25,537 artillery systems, which means the gun, the truck that pulls the gun, and the crew that operates the gun. They've lost 31,416 UAVs. They've lost 1,347 multiple launch rocket systems. That cost $15 million a pop. They lost 370 jet fighters, 335 helicopters. They lost 4 helicopters the other day in one day. Those are about between $30 and $50 million a pop. So they are just, it's that you cannot sustain these numbers.
No.
And you know what? If they think if they're going to try to come across, they don't have the equipment to make this happen. The people of Ukraine have stood their ground, and in the end, they have defeated Russia. Russia just refuses to acknowledge it, but they're going to have to come to terms with it soon.
Absolutely. I would like to say that the Gaz 69, which, it should have a bumper sticker that says ass, gas, or grass, nobody rides for free. If you're going to have a vehicle called the Gaz 69, is a Soviet vehicle from 1953. The last time it was, they made models of it was in 1972. The youngest one is from 1972. And this is great if you're a hippie farmer in upstate New York as a vehicle. It's very kitschy and you'll look great at the farmer's market. But if you're going into war, covering it in fucking birdcage so that the drone targeting, might not work quite as good, which is totally stupid. This is maddeningly stupid. This is so it's so on the nose. It seems impossible, like comically impossible. This seems like something someone would draw in a political cartoon if you entered in gear from 10 years ago, right? Or an Onion article about what kind of gear you're sending out next, right? But we've seen this several times. I mean, we had
meanwhile, Ukrainians are rolling around. Yeah. Meanwhile, Ukrainians are rolling around in Bradleys.
You're right.
Having been in combat in a Bradley, I've been in combat in a Bradley myself. They are amazing pieces of kit, and they're survivable. That's the thing, is that you can walk away from, if you get attacked in a Bradley, you can walk away, which means you can get into another Bradley, or they towed, if they're able to retrieve that, they can repair it, and it's back out there, and the soldiers are back out there as well. So Western kit is just way better than the Soviet kit. And you were talking about Trump spouting off. The other thing that pissed me off in the last 24 hours or so was Musk, Vice President Musk, sitting down with, I think it was Kudlow, right? And he
Um,
talks about the war in Ukraine. Was it Kudlow or was it somebody else?
Brett Baer, although he's done a couple of them lately, so it might have been
Was
during
it?
the Kudlow one. But yeah.
Well, regardless, he sits there and he cries his crocodile tears, and he says, "Oh, this is an awful war. It has to end. It has to end. It's just, all these thousands and hundreds of thousands dying, and for what? To which, I could hear the collective voice of Ukraine yelling out, "For our fucking home, you piece of shit."
Yes,
That's why we're fighting. What he says they're fighting for nothing. Ask a Ukrainian that, Elon Musk.
Right.
Ask a Ukrainian why they are willing to fight as hard as they are.
What he means is, by the way, I would like to say, what he means is that the Russians are fighting for nothing. He has no interest in the lives and livelihoods of the worth of the Ukrainian people as human beings or as a country or any of that shit. What he means is the Russians are facing a losing battle. And if we're talking about the audience of one idea with Trump a lot, there seems to be a lot of audience of one towards Putin right now, as if like Musk and Trump are trying the same tactic on Putin that they've seen that other people try on him by going on Fox News and trying to get a piece of information into his doughy fucking head. The reality is, to some degree, Musk is right that the Russians are wasting their time. The Russians are wasting human lives for no purpose. And and again, then go over there and tell them to go home and go, all the resources you thought you needed or the land you thought you needed, I'm going to use my supercomputers to turn, your Arctic areas to beachfront property. We'll terraform it better than, if I could do it on Mars, I could do it here, whatever. It's all bullshit, though. Let's just be abundantly clear. Both of them rely on Russia, Trump for money in the past and possible blackmail, and then Elon Musk for the aluminum he needs to make Teslas. They're
hoping somebody will welcome them with open arms when they have to flee our country for their bullshit.
Right, like Assad. Like they'll go bunk with Assad.
Yep.
So I
saw two things quickly. I saw two things in the chat. Folks asking me, what about the F-16s? The F-16s are starting to transition to an offensive posture. Previously, they were being used for air defense, but repeatedly now we're hearing more and more about them actually doing airstrikes into Russian-held territory. So that's a positive. Obviously, we're concerned about losing those because they're a limited resource, but I think it's great to see them being used in an offensive capability. And then somebody else asked, do the Ukrainians have the artillery to defend against another Russian offensive? Artillery, yes, not as much as they would like, especially when it comes to rounds. But what they do have is all these drones. And you mentioned it earlier, Hal. There are little hidden workshops dotted around this country where they started the war by knitting camouflage netting. They have now transitioned to these little mom and pop, basically, community center kind of situations where they have maybe a dozen 3D printers going 24/7, just churning out drones. So the artillery situation is not as good as I think the Ukrainians would like, but they're using
the UAV
drones
makes
as a
up for it.
Yeah, it's a substitute for artillery. Not perfect because you don't have the massive scale with these things as an artillery, especially like a shrapnel, not shrapnel, a bomb that has several bomblets that gets dropped out.
The cluster bomb? The cluster bombs?
There you go, right. Mm-hmm. So they don't have as much artillery as they'd like, but these drones are a pretty good substitute. So again, another reason.
They know how to hit them. They know where to hit. If you got a vehicle, you got a tank that you just can't, you can't crack that shell, then you send a UAV right into the daggone, the tread of the track,
right?
And you knock it off. And and once that is there, they got to get out there, they got to repair it, and then you just do it like a daggone hornet's nest. You just keep sending drones, just bust them. I mean, the Ukrainians have mastered the UAV fight, mastered it. And
they are going to be training. They're the ones that are going to be training us for a long time. Ukrainian trainers are going to be going west, and they're the ones that are going to be educating, including American soldiers, how to conduct drone warfare. They already have the JSOC in Poland, where they rotate out NATO officer corps to talk to Ukraine.
Right.
These are Ukrainians who have come off the line and recognize that a good relationship with the West would be facilitated by having trainers. So they take some of their drone guys who are desperately needed on the front, but the Ukrainians say, we will let them go to this training center so that we facilitate good ties between NATO forces and Ukraine. And they're Major, you're 100% right. They're one of the, if not the best fighting force, certainly on the European continent.
They're the best. They're
globally,
the best.
Globally.
Because at the end of the day, we used drones when, in Iraq and Afghanistan. Yeah. But the way that Ukraine has used, I mean, they're developing into the tactics. They're developing this, and it's something that, sadly, the United States of America under Donald Trump, we're no longer on the side of Ukraine, and that's absolutely horrible. It is horrible, but there will come a time when we're past this orange tyrant and all of his sycophants. But I'm telling you right now, Ukraine is going to be remembered. They're the hero in this battle, and they are showing how a person that can fight a superior being with less and win, and that's what they're doing.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And gentlemen, I have Tara Dublin waiting in the wings, and I want to remind everybody, Richard Ojeda, you're on at Eastern Time, 7:30 every night for a half hour on weeknight. 8:30. Oh, sorry, 8:30. That's right. I'm thinking I have central brain right now because of Chicago. 8:30 every night, Monday through Friday. Your
7 days a week. 7 days a week.
Oh, nice.
It's the middle of the night, my time, Major. But if you'd ever like to have me on to have a discussion, I will set my alarm clock and I'll get up and join you sometime.
Hey, we'll set that up, because I'll tell you right now, I'm sure that my followers would love to hear somebody who's on the ground in Ukraine. So absolutely, we'll have to set this up. All righty,
fantastic.
And say hi to Tara for us.
And absolutely, Phil. Yep. Absolutely.
Always,
all right. Thank
as
you, gentlemen.
As safe as you can be.
Right. All right. Cheers. All right. There they go, ladies and gentlemen. And Tara Dublin rocks joining us right now. Hi, there you are. Look at you joining us. I yanked her. Oh, wait, now I don't hear you. So hold on one second. I got to unmute you 1 second. Publishing this thing and then back to live mode. And there's a weird thing. There's always this weird thing. Hold on. I have to do, apparently, when you look fantastic. I would like to say, for the record, just give me 1 second while I do something stupid, because I don't know why this thing works in this regard, but apparently it has to be done to make it work. There we go. Tara Dublin. There you go.
You need to be in the picture.
There you go. Hey, there she is, ladies and gentlemen.
Wait a minute.
Nope, the other way. Back the other way. There you go. Better. There you go. There you go. The closer to you, the better. Yes, always prop it up with a bottle of lotion. What could possibly go wrong?
Hey, don't give away all my trade secrets. I still can't see. It's fine. Everybody in the chat should know my book anyway. And the reason they should is because I dropped the link into the chat right before we got on here. So
right.
Tara the groupie says, Paul Young. No, Paul, because a groupie has to touch people to get places, and I do not. I am a lady.
That's right.
I am. I have seriously, I hate that word so much because it's not applicable, and I don't like it when people, maybe he's saying it because I'm wearing On With the Band, which is the title of Pamela Des Barres' groupie memoir, which is not applicable, but it's also, this is for Low Bar Corral, which is my favorite thing in the whole wide world, which is our group here that we sing songs together with a live band. So if that was the reference, then cool. Thanks,
I think
Paul.
so.
Okay, but I would also like to reiterate, as I have reiterated on more than one occasion, I'm not a groupie for real, and I'm
Oops, hold
not.
on. Why is that so
I'm.
big? Hold on. We're
I
drowning.
don't.
All right, fine.
Ah!
There we go.
I,
There we
I,
go.
neither
Hmm.
am I a stalker. Michael says I'm a goddess. Thank you, Michael. Michael, be
There you
knowing.
go.
Um,
Yes.
I'm neither of those things because I don't know where Dave Grohl lives, which makes me a really bad stalker, as well as the fact that I haven't spoken to him since 2009. So I'm really bad at it. Don't know where he lives. Never have tried to find his house. I wrote a book inspired by him having a crush on me, is what this
Right.
all is. He used to call me his internet crush. What can I say? So I wrote a book, and everyone, please, can you please buy my book? Because that's like literally, I made my weekly notes as I normally do, and the first thing on it is boost my book because this has been crazily enough the slowest sales month for me. I wonder why. So yeah, so I know we're all having a rough one, and March came in with some lion, and it's going out like a lamb to the slaughter is how it's happening. And so before we get into the negativity, I'd like to just remind everybody that MAGA hates it when we succeed, and MAGA hates our joy. So what I would love to see is people boosting and supporting each other in our endeavors outside of the political realm. Mine is my book, The Sound of Settling, a rock and roll love story, available now at towerdublinrocks.com. But also, if you don't want to buy it from Amazon, which I understand, you don't have to, it's available at Powell's. You can order it from your local indie bookstore, or if you want an autographed copy, you can Venmo me $25 and along with your address, and I will mail you an autographed copy. If you have one already, I will send you a signed book plate. And I will also follow you back on all of the socials that we're both on, because that's how you build community. If you show me that you bought my book, it's hard to follow back everybody, but I will follow back every single person who buys my book because I appreciate it so much and I love it so much. And every time I mention my book in the realm where MAGA dwells, it triggers them so much. And they hate that because they don't read. Hey, somebody bought two. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Don't be a groupie, be a band-aid. That's right. It's all happening. And that's a perfect reference because Cameron Crowe loves my book. And I have a blurb on the back of it. And also the other, about a week or 2 weeks ago, he slid into my DMs and told me how much he loved it. So I emailed him the sequel and he's reading it now. So hopefully something will happen out of that. It's been a rough month for everybody, for every reason we can think of. And if we can support each other in small ways, all of that adds up. So, signing up for our Substacks matters. And also, tomorrow begins my birthday month. My birthday is at the end of April. And so I'm going to be 56 next month. And I'm not asking for a lot, but I mean, if I can sell 56 books within the next month, that'd be great. Let's just do that. Let's just do that. Set small goals so that we don't feel overwhelmed by everything. But it makes me happy when I see MAGA mad that I sell books and I wrote a book, because they don't read. And so they made fun of my book and they say it's liberal trash or whatever. It's not about politics. It's a rock and roll love story that takes place in the early 2000s. And it's a wonderful little escape from the burning garbage fire. Were we? We were. And there was a time where I cared about what men thought about me, and I had an active libido. And that's what this book has in it. It has that. Tara has a sexy voice as Scott B. Thank you, Scott.
Oh, look
Thank
at
you,
that.
Scott. Thank
Try
you.
to get her back. Oh, quit. Don't ASMR my channel. I'm telling you.
I used to be on the radio here, my friend. Hey, I have a cameo. If you want me to do an AMSR video for you, I will do one.
No doubt. I think that's wise.
I will read. I'll read to you from my book. Oh, and by the way, over there on the Amazon thing, they've made my book now audible book with the automatic AI sort of thing. I didn't do it. I got an email a couple of days ago saying your book is now eligible, and I'm like, but AI is the devil. And then I'm like, but it is in most ways. But here is a way for AI to do something good, which is give people an audio version of my book that they've been asking for. That it's not my voice. It's not, and I can't vouch for the 12 hours being exactly perfect pronunciation wise. But what I can vouch for it is my book. And they made an audio version. And I know a lot of people were asking for it. So now that's available as well. And that does count towards, if you purchase that counts towards how many books you buy. And so anyway, can you just, everyone needs to do something nice every day. Do something nice because it helps you shake off the ick of the world. right? Just like volunteering makes you feel better about the world and it helps you shake off the yuckies and the mean reds and all of those things. If you just do one good thing for another person every day, it gets you outside of
Uh-huh.
your head for 1 second. You know, or if you want to buy me a coffee, go ahead, drop that into my Venmo. We all have to pay rent tomorrow. So, you know, it's just about community and supporting each other and leaning into the good things that we've got. Anyway, we can
Can
go
I
back to talking about the
can I
garbage fire now.
no, can I annoy you with some good news? Which I
Yes,
am
I
wont
love good.
to do on
Please,
occasion. Yeah.
please,
No, I'm
please
not
do to annoy me with good news. I love good news.
okay. This is Rob Glenn and I do our show on Fridays. What, did I freeze up? Did we freeze or something? Is there something going on? Hold
I
on.
don't
I'm
know.
just making sure.
We
I think
put.
we're okay.
I,
There was
are
a
we okay?
moment of freeze. I think so.
You're
We
showing
seem to
me
be all right.
something that
Yeah, we're
AI
good.
is good. A good
AI,
thing
yes, I
that
am.
AI is doing to
Here it
balance out
is.
the evil. Okay.
Yeah, not even beyond balancing it out. AI and cancer, the emerging revolution. The ability to create a vaccine against cancer is increasingly possible. They're already in what are effectively now virtual trials because you can do that on a myriad of things. This the mix of, and this is the irony, and this kind of goes to our maggots don't understand anything good in the world. Is that mRNA vaccines, which we all became familiar with, due largely to the the world of the COVID, post COVID, that maggots seem to hate for any. The only reason is, I don't know, future bad technology is the Antichrist, shit like that. We are entering into an era where AI mixed with mRNA technology and gene editing could make and I'm not saying this you like hyperbolically, but all disease in
That
the
would be
rearview mirror.
delightful. That would make us all very
All
happy, wouldn't it?
disease. Yes, all disease in the rearview mirror. And
Wow,
even if it
imagine that. What does that do
imagine
to the human population? What does that do to the global population? Because you
makes it
know,
yeah. It extends I'll tell you what it does. So we're on a
extends life
demographic slide.
expectancies, right? So,
Right. Yes. However, there are going to be Luddites in the world who think it's unnatural, and so that'll be about a third of the population of the world won't go anywhere near it. And a
I'm
lot of
sorry.
people.
I'm not laughing at you. Somebody in the Trevor in the chat. Tara causes my sapiosexual inclinations to go into hyperdrive. Thank you. Thank you.
Aw,
You know what? I should just hang out in your chat every day for an ego boost because nobody talks to me like this in real life. Anyway,
right.
back to saving the world
That's
from disease. Thank
that's
you.
pitiful.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you. That's the nicest thing anyone said to me in a very long time. Okay. Anyway,
yeah. The
keep that
primary
going.
thing though is that I was saying is that when you jump into the evil of it, it is more. I think what more people are reacting to is the evil of the people in charge of it, the concerns about people like Elon Musk and his ilk being in charge of something that will like replace humans, therefore we won't need them anymore, therefore we're down to the depopulation panic attack that Alex Jones had for years. And there is reason to be concerned about that when it comes to the Elon Musks of the world. However, it does have a shelf life in terms of the Trump administration and maggots and that crowd because they all hate it. They're all very nervous about the idea, and they view. And this is, I had a realization last week that when he's talking about transgender issues, he says one of the things he repeatedly says is transgender for everybody. That's what the left wants. They want open borders. They want transgender for everybody. I
Makes
think
sense.
he means transhumanism, and he doesn't know the difference between transgender and transsexuals and transhumanism. When transhumanism is, of course, what the Elon Musk thing, where chipping people's brains and making us all basically cyborgs, living forever and all that kind of stuff that the transhumanists have been working on for a long time. That's the devil until it isn't, until your buddy pays for your campaign, I guess. But in the same way he thinks people who are seeking asylum came from asylums, he thinks transhumanism has to do with transgender issues because he's fucking dumb.
Right. Of course. Well, obviously, he doesn't understand how anything works or what words mean. He also, I mean, also transgenic. He thinks mice are transgender now. So,
Sure.
It's so scary when stupid people get, the platform and the smart kids are screaming the truth and no one's listening. That's one of my daily frustrations is the stupidity that gets, broadcast everywhere and nobody pushes back against it. And it's really frustrating.
Yeah. Well, and again, so let's talk Tesla then for a minute, because there was this illusion, and I'm sure you're enjoying as much as I am, the illusion of Elon Musk as super genius is collapsing in the same way that nobody really believes Donald Trump was a good businessman. Most people are just bullshitting themselves or lying in public saying they do because they are embarrassed to admit that they were flim-flammed.
I mean, but you won't die if you admit you're wrong. You made a mistake, made the wrong choice.
Right.
I just said those words out loud. I didn't get struck by lightning. So, and that's one of my bigger frustrations is that we continue to prove that we're capable of holding our leadership accountable, and we kick up a fuss when we see something wrong, and they just try to push the goalposts right past it so that they can create a distraction and we stop talking about it. And we never should stop talking about the things that matter. Like Signalgate needs to be at the top of everything, right? Still. And so everybody should be talking about that first and foremost in congruently with the special elections, because those things together, you can draw a straight line. Here, your elections have consequences. And this is the consequence of not demanding a forensic audit of the 2024 election, because now we're stuck with this, cabinet of morons about to murder everybody because they don't understand how anything works and they can't do their jobs. And so, the pushing back against smartness and the deliberate dumbing down is all part of the Russian propaganda 101, part of, turning us against the media and not accepting facts when they are presented to you, regardless of the source. The truth is the truth. And so, one of the multiple tidbits of information we've gotten from Signalgate is, how they're trying to blame Jeffrey Goldberg for hacking himself into the conversation, which is impossible to do. And it turns out one of the bits of information that was probably lost in all of this is that he was trying to add Jennifer Griffin, Fox News' national security correspondent. They have the same initials, JG. So he accidentally added Jeffrey Goldberg instead of Jennifer Griffin. And that's how this all happened. Because Jeffrey Goldberg went and told the world what happened, while Jennifer Griffin, who works for Fox News and has for a very long time, then immediately filed a report on Fox News telling the absolute truth and shredding every bit of propaganda.
Wow.
And your confused face tells me everything that I need to know.
Holy shit.
Right?
Yeah.
You didn't hear about any of those things. So that's why it's incumbent upon us, like all of the distractions, like Elon Musk parading around Wisconsin and absolutely should have been arrested for those giant checks that he gave people. It's the same bullshit that he did during the election that he should have been arrested for. All part of the distraction. But what I just said and the shock on your face, that's a huge part of what's wrong. That's why we need a Democratic press secretary.
Well, there's a bunch of reasons why I'm, obviously to be shocked. One is that she would not have been allowed to see the classified information that was in that battle plans before they're released. So it's not better that they meant to bring in someone without clearance into a private chat like that. It's not an improvement at all.
No, but also Pete Hegseth comes from Fox News. So, it's not out of the realm of he's like, well, let's bring Jennifer in. Maybe she's got some ideas about the Houthis, like.
No. And my brother's here. At least he works at the Pentagon. My wife is sitting here. She was mentioning shit. Now, granted,
The fucking
his
shit
wife
with the wife. What the hell? That I mean, come
his
on
wife.
now.
His wife has to pray with him every morning so he doesn't fuck coworkers. So that get drunk and fuck coworkers. That's
or doesn't hit her.
no.
Or
That's
take
really
a shot of whiskey with
that's really
breakfast.
it. So they went through this whole thing where he cheated on her after he cheated on his last wife and had a baby with her. He cheated on her too. And so to clean up the mess, they found Jesus as a couple and they sit across the, according to her, they sit there. I don't know if you remember this during leading up to his fucking committee hearings. He was talking about how his wife was saying, he wasn't even the one saying it. And you could tell he was just like this busted husband, sitting there. And she's like, we pray about it every morning before he goes to work so that Jesus will help guide us in our love together. And he's like, yeah, that's exactly what we do.
That's what we do.
Help me. Somebody give me a drink.
Right. That's right. That's great.
Oh my fucking God.
My white nationalist tattoos are going to get prayed away also. They're going to magically disappear from my skin because I'm going to ask Jesus to cleanse me of all of my hatred. Come on, shut the fuck up.
The reason I'm kind of shocked about this is because one of the things was like Jennifer Griffin had just written an article a few days ago defending that the stuff wasn't classified, which I would say, but that sounds like CYA. It sounds like she was in a situation where she would have been the one if she had known of it, somebody had found out, but she hadn't reported on it. Let's say these signal chats got preserved like they're legally supposed to, and somebody read them later. And what the fuck is Jennifer Griffin in watching this, military strikes happen before they are? Why are you letting news reporters beforehand know what's going on? This is, are you embedding them? Then they have to be known. They have to, in the field, they have to wear a press jacket and they've got to have creds and you've got to know that they're there and they're listed. And when they talk, there's a whole thing that says embedded with the military so people can decide whether or not to trust them, whether they're just getting the byline or whether they're, they really are reporting the inside workings on their own independently. You can make up your own fucking mind, but at least they have that information to go with. And this dizzy fuck ends up writing an article going, it wasn't that, defending Signalgate essentially. And now we find out that she was meant to be the Jeffrey Goldberg in the situation. And the fact that you just went by initials, like that's your fucking standard.
I mean,
it doesn't get better for these assholes.
It's delightful too, because there's a screenshot that Jeffrey Goldberg shares where it says Mike Waltz added you. It says it doesn't say you added yourself.
No.
It says Mike Waltz added you. There it is. Screenshot from Jeffrey Goldberg. So when you're looking for a scapegoat in this one, MAGA, it's coming from inside the house, literally, because that's you. You did that. This is your mistake. This is on you. And you still are trying. Joe Biden used Signal not to make not to discuss plans,
war plans.
War plans or attack plans, and then
not to discuss when our soldiers would be over enemy territory, and not when our pilots would be over enemy territory that has the capacity to blow them out of the sky hours ahead of time. He never used it for that. And again, this is like the Hillary email server idea. Like, what was the single piece of I don't know, top secret information that allegedly, and we now know, obviously, the classified stuff that was on Hillary's server was conversations that were later made public that day that were classified but never declassified materially, or her fucking schedule. And because if the State Department,
or there's a risotto recipe also.
Yeah, right. But that's like her own personal stuff. But the stuff that would qualify as classified on any real sense was what she was going to be doing as the schedule. Because if you know where they're going to be for security reasons, you could you could assassinate the Secretary of State. That's classified, but it's classified for her own safety. So she has more impetus to make it secure than anybody else does. And I have to remind everybody that the State Department servers were hacked while she was Secretary of State by no fault of her own, but her server never was. Hillary Clinton's server was never hacked. There has never been any evidence that any details from it that are linked to it, any of the stuff, the 30,000 emails that they absolutely have, because emails are never in just one place. They, of course, everybody they were sent to had copies of where they came from and how they came through. It's just fucking stupid. You know, like they act like they're the fucking Geraldo tapes,
I mean, it's ridiculous. Every single person in that Signal chat should have to be Benghazi'd. They should be forced to sit in front of a Senate
11
committee
hours.
for 11 hours and give testimony, because Hillary sat there and she's like, look, nothing fucking happened. That's not what fucking happened. Nope. And after 11 hours, they were like, oh, I guess that didn't happen. So, it's just, it is utterly ridiculous that they're trying to, they're pointing the finger in every direction except at themselves, which is exactly what they do. And I wrote about this for the Political Voices Network Substack last week, which I hope everybody signs up for. But it's, just a tip. It's the way they use language, and they try to turn everything into a semantics discussion, or they blame the messenger or the reporter rather than the issue. And it's a very similar reaction every single time. Like the first step on the MAGA misinformation superhighway, when they're moving the goalposts, first they start with false equivalence, because that's just easy. Well, Joe Biden used Signal, and then that one didn't work, and so then they move along to bullying. Bullying is super effective when they do it in a group way, and they go after Jeffrey Goldberg for having the audacity to do his job. And thank you, Jeffrey Goldberg, for not being Bob Woodward. So, because he could have sat on this. He could have sat on this and sold a hell of a book from it, but then we all would have been really mad at him. So there's that. And then it was, well, if they said this, actually it was this, but actually it wasn't this. And then it becomes the word salad of never taking accountability and trying to move it to, well, but a transgender person might try to go to jail or this and get get an operation. I don't know what their bullshit is, but it's all bullshit, because they have nothing to say in defense of what has
indefensible.
Happened. Instead of saying we fucked up, instead of saying that, and instead of firing everybody responsible or demanding they resign, they're like, what? It's fine. Everything's cool. It's all good. It's going to disappear in a week anyway. Just let it
John
go.
in our chat is saying the Roy Cohn offense tactic, which is exactly that. Admit no mistakes and always be on offense. So let me clarify something on Jennifer Griffin. Interestingly enough, her follow-up post, when it was like after she looked into the story, doesn't make me feel like they would have been any better off adding her to the chat ultimately, because there's a lot of people at Fox News that are fucking hawks. And let me see if I can. I'll bring this in because I want you to see this. This is
she
crazy.
Filed a report that was front sold by Brett Baier. So he's like, here's Jennifer Griffin. And she's like, this is what happened, and this is what happened, and this actually happened, and this is what the real truth is. And he comes back and he goes, Jennifer Griffin reporting from da-da-da. He said there's no follow-up. He says nothing about anything she says in the package. So, nothing. He just moves
listen to this, though. Listen to this. So this is beyond just her being added. There's a debate about whether the operational details Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth shared in the Signal group chat, whether they were classified or not. So I surveyed a range of current and former U.S. defense officials who agreed war plans is not the right term, but what was shared may have been far more sensitive given the operational details and timestamps ahead of the operation, which could have placed U.S. military pilots in harm's way. What Hegseth shared 2 hours ahead of strikes were time-sensitive attack orders or operational plans, with actual timing of the strikes and mention of F-18s, MQ-9 Reapers, and Tomahawks. This information is typically sent through classified channels to the commanders in the field as secret, no foreign message. In other words, the information is classified and should not be shared through insecure channels. So, no external channels. Attack orders
or on your personal phone, you fucking idiot.
Fucking hell. Attack orders or attack sequence puts the joint force directly and immediately at risk, according to former senior defense official number one. It allows the enemy to move the target and increase lethal actions against U.S. forces. This kind of real-time operational information is more sensitive than war plans, which makes this lapse more egregious. according to 2 former U.S. defense officials. This information was clearly classified, according to the former U.S. defense official number 1. And let me tell you something. You want to talk about some must-see fucking TV, kids? You want to talk about some must-see TV? Pete Hegseth not blathering on a fucking tarmac where he can effectively lie and get away with it, but Pete Hegseth under oath in front of committee. Now, they should be calling him in right fucking now. He and Mike Waltz
should have called him in last fucking week.
Yep, they should be sitting there
and there with rat fucking Tulsi. That's what where he should have been. Wherever he was. Yeah, that's where he should have been. So they got to call him in.
Yeah, but he's still got to do regular appropriations anyway, so he can't dodge it. And I want to say it's quarterly. So he's got maybe a month. They could hope this goes away, which is clearly what they are trying to do, but it ain't. Democrats are just going to like fucking pick the scab on this thing forever because
that's right.
It's cut and dried. This is not like up for there is no real debate about any of this. Everybody knows this. If you tell where and when and who before an attack, you can get that who killed. You can get our people killed, period. It's baseline. It is so fucking dumb. And it's almost like Trump is hoping his tariffs are such a fucking wreck that, people
God, why don't they understand how they work? They still don't get it.
But tomorrow's Liberation Day.
What? It's also April Fool's Day, so please, grain of salt.
Or day after tomorrow, right?
Fuck faces. Or the day. Yeah. No, today's the 31st. Tomorrow's April 1st.
Yeah. So the 2nd is his Liberation Day.
What does that even fucking mean? What does that mean? Liberated from what? We're a free country, you idiot. We need to be free of you. By the way, let's also continue to point out that Special Envoy Steve Witkoff was in Russia when that conversation took place over Signal. So where was he in Russia at that time? Was he sitting at Daddy Vlad's feet? Was he sharing like check this out? Also, something that we learned from this story, Pete Hegseth has a .ru email address.
Right.
.ru is Russia.
The Russian.
It's a fucking Russian email address. Why? Why should the American Secretary of Defense have a Russian email? He shouldn't. He shouldn't have white nationalist tattoos. He shouldn't come from Fox News. He shouldn't be, an alcoholic wife beater. There's a lot of things that shouldn't. But here we are. So, but yes, he is the one that is ultimately responsible because he's the Secretary of Defense. And so he and Mike Waltz and John Ratfuck and Tulsi and everybody else on that call. Oh, Joe Kent. Joe Kent was on that call or on the chat before Tulsi was physically joined the chat. He was like her her representative in the chat, and he's not even been appointed yet. Boy,
he's operating as
Joe
her
Kent,
deputy secretary or something like that. But
he hasn't been appointed yet, and he is the one that kicked off my harassment from Matt Gaetz back in 2021 because Joe Kent comes from Southwest Washington, the district I used to live in. He stepped up to challenge Jamie Herrera Butler for the Republican seat in that district because she is one of the 10 Republicans who voted for Trump's second impeachment. And she also told the truth about what happened on January 6th because she was with Kevin McCarthy in his office when the MAGA terrorists were trying to break through the window, and McCarthy called Trump and said, call off your dogs. They're getting in my office now. So Jamie Herrera Butler was immediately named a rhino. She was called a traitor, even though she voted with Trump like 98% of the time. And Joe Kent is this MAGA plant that they found. And he's basically Rand Paul light. Hey, Joy sent me $19.99. Thank you, Joy. Tara is an angel. Thank you so much, Joy. That's going to help immensely. But anyway, so Joe Kent should never have been in that chat.
No.
Just like not just like Jeffrey Goldberg, because Joe Kent's not going to tell anybody, but he's not even confirmed. Just like Marjorie Taylor Greene at the White House before she was sworn into office plotting January 6th. So Joe Kent should be hauled before that committee and made to testify under oath because he's Rand Paul light. He's a shady CIA plant, and he needs to be hauled in for testimony also. every single person on that chat.
Well, yeah, I think
should have to
I think
testify immediately.
Right. You could tell at the end of the hearings that Ratcliffe and Gabbard were tired of taking the heat for Hegseth's fuck up, because up till the point he dumped that stuff into the chat, it was just classified but not top secret. It was, they could make this wiggle room that, well, people shouldn't be able to see deliberations because it's on the level of executive privilege, but it's not the kind of classified that you'd want to, like, that's germane to national security in an immediate sense. But the minute he dropped that shit into the chat, that fucking game ended, and he made everybody in there a criminal, because they stayed in after they acknowledged his post. They committed a crime. Fucking end of story. They didn't go, everybody
with
drop
emojis.
What you're doing and take 2 steps fucking back, right? No, like, erase that immediately. Now, they may have believed erroneously that these things were disappearing, but because it's a group chat, it doesn't work the same way as a one-to-one chat in Signal, and apparently they had it set so they could have an ongoing conversation. So the stuff wasn't it was like set to disappear by the week or the month or something, obviously. So he was able to screen cap the last week worth of shit. Like, he was taking pictures. So here's fuck me.
We have never been less safe because of these fucking idiots.
Oh, well, don't get me started on RFK Jr. and a bioweapon.
I mean, right.
Jesus. But they were definitely getting tired of it. It has to be at some point that Hegseth and Waltz need to sit next to each other and take questions from the Senate and the House.
Under oath.
Yes.
Oh, the under oath part is so important, because perjury is a crime and lying to Congress is a crime. It's a federal. They should. I mean, Ratcliffe and Gabbard should have been arrested immediately in that hearing because they perjured themselves. And Ossoff, John Ossoff questioning John Ratcliffe almost brought back my libido. Almost brought it back. It was so good. I mean, seriously. In the rate, we have to replace Chuck Schumer as minority leader, and John Ossoff just stepped up as a real viable contender. We've got a handful of very strong Senate Democrats, right? So, there is potential here. We have to get Senate Democrats are mad and they are taking action, which is something that everybody, legacy media is not going to report on that. They're not going to report on the good stuff, which is why we need a Democratic press secretary. These are the things that we have to keep putting back into the conversation to make sure this story doesn't go away, to push. So this is, it's Monday. This is, to set an intention for the week, call your reps and say, we demand that you bring these people in front of a House and Senate committee hearing to find out exactly what happened, and that there are legal consequences for them lying to not just to Congress, but to the American people about this and making us less safe. And if that doesn't land with MAGA, I'm not sure what does, because their personal freedom is at stake, and their, all of it is at stake, and they still are, care more about being bullies. And it's trying to redirect everybody to make them realize this is not about Democrats or Republicans. This is about humans. This is about our lives. This is
I think they're realizing that.
This is a global issue, not just an American one.
I think they're starting to realize that in MAGA world, because we've seen myriads of stories lately about that, like, I voted for Trump and I regret it now because I didn't think his cuts would affect me, that kind of stuff. And you're like, oh, fucking please. And don't get me started, the Arabs for peace.
My face.
Right, exactly. But this is why I think a lot of this has legs around, and it might, there was a lot of, I think, Laura Ingraham and a couple other people started using the phrase blood in the water around this, but to describe the Democrats and the left wing, the media, the MSDNC, going after Signalgate. And Trump posted on Truth Social this weekend, like, they just don't stop, whatever. Like, yeah, motherfucker, why would we? Would you respect us if we did? I don't even understand. But anyways, it should come as no surprise that Mike Waltz, it has been reported by the Wall Street Journal that this asshole has a lot of sensitive group chats on Signal that they are using without preserving the text. Yeah. And that there is no way of checking if there are people who shouldn't be in there right now, because I don't know if they're jettisoning people to cover his ass, and the chats themselves they may have gotten rid of to cover their tracks, which is a crime. Again, in the situation where you've done it, where you've given away classified information, the cover up being worse than the crime shows that, because it shows that an awareness of guilt.
Right.
Is really the reason it's worse than the crime is because that's what gets you convicted. You can commit a crime and get away with it sometimes because you can say, I had no idea. Innocence, equals ignorance. But in this particular case, if you're going back and you're brooming chats and you're dumping people out, you clearly know you fucked up and you're trying to hide what you did illegally.
Yep.
Because again, these have to be preserved. Our government, these are public servants. They don't get to have secret chats that nobody has oversight over in the future. You're just not allowed to do it. So this guy right here, it turns out,
of course,
Mike fucking Walsh.
I mean, and that's probably one of the first questions people should have been asking. Like, if this chat exists, what other chats exist on that idiot's phone? The only reason we haven't heard about it before is because he never accidentally added a reporter before. Like, that's the only reason. And we have to be really super grateful for what Jeffrey Goldberg did. I mean, I will say a prayer for victory. Get all the way fucking bent, Vladimir Futon. I can't stand him so much. It's just the performative, like all of that stuff, like sending Vance to Greenland over the weekend and having nobody show up for him. That was, oh my God. I mean, the failure of that photo op was just indicative of how desperate they are to try to move the goalposts away from Signalgate.
Like shopping his wife around, like
knocking on doors. Hi,
doors.
Will you talk to the Vances? And everyone's like, fuck you, slamming doors in their face. Nobody wanted to talk to them. Nobody wanted them there. Nobody truly greeted them. Nobody understands why. This is all just such performative distraction bullshit.
Right.
Now, I understand that there's minerals under the ground and shit. You don't get to do that, and it's just it is unreal. Like the moron who wanted to rename Greenland red, white, and blue land. You don't get to rename another country.
Yeah,
you don't. You don't get to do that. You don't get to put Trump's face on Mount Rushmore. You don't get to push him for a third term. There are ridiculous bullshit things that they're trying to do to distract everybody from this. So, you want to waste time by talking about, go ahead, trend Obama 2028, because if they want to change the Constitution to help Trump, guess who else it helps? So go ahead. Go ahead and talk about your stupid shit. The smart kids are going to still talk about the things that matter. And we're going to keep learning more about Signalgate. We're going to we're just going to keep digging down and finding out more of how they continue to make us less safe.
So
above all other things should be, huge for everyone, regardless of how you voted.
Yeah. I forget. Whoops. Why did that happen? Hold on. I lost you for a second. Let's go. I'll put you in here. Hold on. Your camera moved for some odd reason. 1 second. And point. There we go.
Nothing.
There you go.
Hi.
Excellent.
Hi. People all over the world are recreating this moment. This became an instant meme. Yeah. My younger son went on spring break with his friends to I'm not going to say which one, but to a national park. And there's a picture of him and he's doing this.
Oh my God.
And he's pointing, like his friends are standing up on the thing, like, it's the funniest. I love this. I feel this so much.
This needs to be like, like inserted into the like death from the salmon moose Monty Python thing, like he's toasting at the table.
Yes.
But like I forget who it was. It was like it might have been Colbert, like or no, SNL, I think this weekend. We're like, JD Vance here seen toasting an airplane as it left without him or some shit, right? The fact that he couldn't go anywhere. Oh,
This is
so
gonna get
good.
This is gonna achieve legendary internet status, along
Derp
with the John
status.
Travolta looking for something.
Yeah.
You know, the John Travolta looking for something meme that comes from Pulp Fiction. This is
Right.
so indicative of how
It's
empty this
so Vance.
administration is. There's your mandate. That's what your mandate looks like. A whole bunch of fucking nothing. This
Now
is what your administration is delivering. Nothing. You do nothing.
Yeah.
I mean,
No.
you are an empty hull of a nothing, tiny, pathetic loser. It is unreasonable. Oh, someone sent something towards my book fund. Thank you so much.
My flight left. I love you guys. You guys.
Hey,
so
let's go back to the hotel. Let's go back to the airport bar. We'll wait for the next flight.
Can I bring this up? So I made this to show this. I don't know if you saw this, but I posted it on my Substack, and I also posted it on Blue Sky and the like. I made this to explain what the fuck is up with these assholes. So here's what the fuck is up. Why Greenland? Why Canada? Why the Panama Canal? This is why. This is a map of the tech native America that Elon Musk's maternal grandfather made, the one who taught him to be a risk taker, the boldest member of his family who dreamt big and who was driven out of Canada for, facilitating a fascist group that was going to try and take over, and line itself with Hitler. Yeah, but this is why. Awesome. This is what it is. This is the map he showed him. Now, he's not showing him the tech native America shit. But he's saying we'd be as big as China or Russia with our land mass if we had Canada, Greenland, and we should own the Panama Canal. And so that's what this is. Where is this coming from? This is exactly where this is coming from. Does Trump know the back history of the tech native America? No, of course not. But Elon Musk is whispering in his ear, and everything we hear them kind of nudging about around Greenland, Canada, and the Panama Canal is exactly in this fucking map. Is the plan from 1935. Is the technate an anti-democracy government plan where the country is run based on people's material worth, their meritocracy decided by engineers at the time, but of course now it would be AI, I would presume.
Great.
And I got news for you, red states. You guys are fucked.
So fucked.
Fucked.
For sure. So fucked.
But
and
that's
this is
why.
Also why. Yeah. And this is also why they're trying to kill all Americans and replace them with an obedient white Christian army of children who will be worked to death in the fields. I don't know if you saw this in the middle of all of the other fuckery, but Florida Governor Ron DeSantis wants to sign a bill that lets kids work. They can
night shifts.
Night shifts, overnight shifts before they can go to school in the morning. What's wrong with that? I worked when I was 14 and 15.
You want to know why? You want to know why the law was passed in the first fucking place?
You deported a bunch of people, and now you need to fill their jobs.
No, that's why he needs it now. No, why the law was passed in the first place. Why they have this law about kids not being able to work overnight. Why? Because that's how you stop sex trafficking. Because the whole point was people were running in the fucking 50s and 60s. They were running roadside motels in fucking Florida and pimping children. That's why. It's an anti-child sex trafficking law. It's not like that, and the law had to cover all the businesses so Florida wouldn't be embarrassed that all their fucking motor lodges were brothels for teenage girls and boys. That's why. That's why they passed that law, you dumb motherfucker. I don't want to hear anything from these assholes about like Pizzagate and a child sex cabal that allegedly runs the government and all this bullshit. Motherfucker, you're undoing all the laws. Right. Never mind the fact that Trump and Epstein go way back. Yeah, Matt Gaetz has a show on OAN.
Gaetz, the Tates. Andrew and Tristan Tate. Andrew Tate's last girlfriend brought charges against him for imprisonment and rape and all this stuff in the United States. Nancy Mace still not commenting. No one's commenting. The GOP is fine with the Tates being in town. And then there was something I saw on Blue Sky, something like a record number of child molesters connected to the church were arrested in the month of March. something like a
Right.
record number of sexual predators.
Yeah.
It's all coming from the Republican Party, the alleged pro-life party. They're not pro-life. They are pro-birth. They are pro-birthing your fetus out into the world and then immediately figuring out a way to make money off of it. So they don't care about the quality of the life. They just want to put them to work, or, you know, do what they can to squeeze all of the life out of them before they throw them into a pile and birth more, because that's what they're doing. And it's so fucking disgusting that nobody, like, because of all of this shit that's happening at once, and we talked about this last week too, when it's all of this happening at once, you can't focus enough on one thing to be mad about. Like, and how do you
that's the whole Steve Bannon making, like, baffle him with bullshit idea.
Right, but you're making all of intentionally making children unsafe is what you're doing. And Democrats don't do that. We don't do that. Just everybody should be aware that Democrats pass laws to protect children and protect women and protect vulnerable communities. And that's what we do. And if you don't like those vulnerable communities, you're the problem, and don't hang out with them. Go stay in your little white enclave in Idaho. You know, and this is why, you know, but at least we're seeing pushback. Like, Democratic representatives are still going into Republican districts and holding town halls. Yeah. Over the weekend, Chris Murphy and Maxwell Frost went to Michigan, and they held a town hall there, I think. That was packed. And we're seeing AOC and Bernie doing. And I hope you saw the video of people pushing back against Victoria Spartz, who, she's a Republican, and she held a town hall, and people were screaming at her. And she's got a Russian accent, so that's helpful. So, you know,
really sells it.
You hear all of this. Right. And so this just makes me want you and me and John and Frangela go to buttfuck Idaho,
Ron,
in the middle of Iowa. We need to get on that. We need to make that happen, because they're paving the way for us to hold town hall shows in places, because people are starving for the truth, and they're desperate for answers to their questions of, why is this happening, and why are you allowing this to happen? See? Like, you're getting rid of an entire population to destroy another population. It's all part of the Great Replacement theory. It's all part of it. So remember, the Charlottesville March was an indicator. Jews will not replace us. And what they were saying was, we're going to replace Jews. We're going to replace you. We're going to replace you with us. That's what that march was. You know, and that's what DeSantis is, you know, this is all part of it. This is all part of feeding into, look at that, young people aged 14. 14 could be allowed to work overnight
during the school week.
That's a great way to kill your child, or have them disappeared in the middle of the night. While you're sleeping, your kid could be, you know, taken from the back room at a Walmart while doing overnight inventory.
Right.
It's so, everything about this is so vile and infuriating, and it makes me want to go to Washington with you and knock on doors.
So fucking
like,
obvious.
Why are you doing this? I know.
I know. Fucking obvious. Like, it's so, you know, how do, and again, I guess we reach this point of, like, when will it be too much where the tariffs are going to hit day after tomorrow. The Signalgate thing is not going away. Trump is golfing his ass off, and there is no situation, like anything that he has upcoming, where he can buy favor with his own base.
Then he's gonna stage a rally probably very soon. I would imagine when shit is going sideways. He usually goes out and does one of those propaganda rallies, kind of like boost his ego and get the base riled up. So I wouldn't be surprised if he manufactured a reason for a rally soon after this Liberation Day, probably, you know, soon after. Oh, we did great. Look, the taxes are liberating us, and the tariffs and everything's awesome. So let's have a big rally in the middle of, I don't know, Daytona. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. But I wouldn't be surprised, because his approval rating is at an all-time low, and Americans are not happy with Elon Musk. There was a poll that came out that most Americans don't view Musk favorably, and Musk belongs in prison right now for that fuckery in Wisconsin, along with the other crimes he's committed against the United States. But again, when Trump is this down, the only thing that he has right now is the ability to put on a show. which is why, you know, that's all part of the bullshit with the Kennedy Center. I wouldn't be surprised if he staged something there where they called it, they changed the name and turned it into the Trump Center and brought in Paula White and a whole bunch of Christian people and did, you know, they're going to put on a show as all part of the distraction and another thing to rile up the MAGA base. But another, you know, I think they're worried about the special election, which is why they withdrew Trashy Stefanik's UN ambassador nomination. I don't know if you saw that. Did you see that? For
Which
the special
part?
election. So now,
yes,
Stefanik. So they withdrew her nomination because they need her dumpy ass in her seat in the House.
Yep.
Because they were worried about Blake, and like, so he can still run. I think they're still are they still having that special election? I wasn't able to check that before we got on, but I don't know if they still have it now that she's back in the seat. So, but he could still
I don't
be,
think so
you know,
normally,
in 2026,
but I don't know
challenge.
what. I feel like they had to do. Yes, I think they had to do it by, like they had 24 hours to do it last Friday or something. That's why he did it in a big fucking hurry.
Right. But
Or
there's
it
still the two
automatic
seats in Florida. So that would that give us a tie in the House?
Yes. Yep.
So that's fun. Nice stalemates. We look forward to stalemates in the House, and that's why every single vote will matter going forward.
Right.
You know, one person absent will
they would also
make it the difference.
They would have to equally divide up, and I don't know what happens when you have an evenly divided one insofar as committees, because it would mean that who runs the committees, the ability to run the committees, technically speaking, would be the purview of both parties. So either one could call, like, let's say there's a ranking member and a chairman, they would both be co-chairs, and they would be able to call meetings, in concert with the other. And so Democrats could scuttle bullshit Republican committee hearings if they wanted to, or trade them for calling their own hearings, or vice versa.
Right. They could also call for a new speaker vote. They could try to replace Johnson as speaker.
Oh,
which would be delightful. But maybe that's not Hakeem Jeffries anymore. And maybe we need to, it could be Jasmine Crockett. It could be AOC. I would love to see a female speaker.
Well, no, she wouldn't. I agree, but she wouldn't be able to get. Here's the thing: if you want to get, if it's evenly split, and you've got to get tearaway Republicans to fall off and not vote, the way you're gonna have to do that is with a male. Period. They won't. If it's AOC or Jasmine Crockett, the Republicans will all vote lockstep, and it'll basically be a wash. And Democrats are not going to vote for any Republican person, but Republicans will only all show up if it's someone like AOC or Jasmine Crockett. I really do think there's a chance that Hakeem Jeffries, he'll be in a hated position. That's what their calculus will be. Let him run the House so that we can direct hate at the Democrats. Right. But
scapegoating
they would
a
at
black
least
person is something they love to do. So
totally
they can do that. Great.
But the House would be in better hands in Hakeem Jeffries anyways, even if he's making compromises in these circumstances. So and again, I don't want to hear any lesser of two evils bullshit when voters left Democrats out of power in all three branches. So I don't want to hear it. I don't fucking want to hear it. Anything they have to do to limit the damage right now and position for a comeback, that's all they can be thinking about. Period.
That's right. That's right.
And I would like to remind everybody, after this fucking Schumer thing, and I feel like I'm the only person bringing it up, but Schumer's vote and pushing through the CR and and voting on cloture, but not on the actual bill itself, guaranteed Trump's tax cut can't come to the floor till the fall, when the tariffs and all that shit have already wrecked the fucking economy and haven't worked. And that's when it's gone forever. If they'd allowed the budget to go through, and there's another aspect of this too, if they'd allowed one of these budgets to go through, it would have teed up the House bill would have guaranteed the tax cut. The Republican bill would have teed it up for being able to do it in June right away. So even if things aren't working, they would have been able to push it through with them. On top of that, if the government is shut down, the president would be able to get rid of USAID, the Department of Education, and all these departments by a stroke of the pen, because the Congress has not funded them going forward. There is no budget in place. There has not been an agreement on that budget. Therefore, all departments are in limbo. And most presidents wouldn't take advantage of that limbo to fucking redline USAID or any other department, Department of Agriculture, Department of Education. But you goddamn know Trump would have. So shutting down the government would have given him the power to line item veto out of existence the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, for example, which a judge has just told them to put people back to work with the CFPB because it has been funded in the budget by the Congress. They have voted on it and it exists. Its funding has been put forward. A CR continues that funding for the CFPB. Right? Shutting down the government for any material time, he can make an argument. We're shutting it down and we're not reopening it because they didn't agree to fund it. And if they want to fund it, they have to start from scratch, knowing that Republicans in the House and Senate would stop everything. They would they're not going to start. Fuck, they could eliminate Medicare and Medicaid if they wanted to, because the government is technically shut down and therefore there's not a real budget. So if you want Medicare and Medicaid, you should start on it again. They talked about this during the Bush years of like having to vote on, or even when Trump ran again, every 2 years we should vote on all federal programs from scratch. These motherfuckers can't pass a budget to fund the fucking things, much less committee and argue the existence of these programs from scratch all the fucking time. So Schumer did the right thing. He saved, a myriad of programs and human lives, period.
And yet still he's he's polarizing now and he's unpopular now.
That's good.
And this is
that's because, that's because he was
had to
kneecapped.
Do something that was hard and, and unpopular.
He was kneecapped by voters and he's left holding the bag. Right.
Right. And I understand it. Could you and I take the time to, parse it down and understand the why of why somebody does things instead of looking at the clickbait headline and making decisions just based on that. But at the same time, our Democratic leadership needs to be replaced and he needs to be replaced by somebody who's a little bit more of a unifier, somebody who isn't so polarizing, somebody who can get work done and get people to listen to them, that has the gravitas, but maybe hasn't like made a huge impression on the national scene so that they don't have anything built in ahead of time. So like people have preconceived notions about Adam Schiff. Adam Schiff is a fantastic public servant, always has been. We had a great time with him at Sexy Liberal back in November. We were really excited for him to become the senator. I made him the Sexy Liberal senator bracelet, all good. But if you put him as the Senate minority leader, it's going to be about Adam Schiff rather than the Democratic agenda. So, but somebody who's starting to step up on the national stage, like a John Ossoff, or somebody who's been there for a long time, but doesn't have some like overwhelming presence like Patty Murray, who has been there since 1992, would be an effective Senate minority leader because she's all about getting to work and getting shit done rather than going on The View to sell her book. So, it's about shifting the nation's perception of who's in charge. How are Democrats going to move forward, and where is their unifying message? Because what they need is the strength and unity that MAGA, by the way, they don't have that. They just project an image of having that. Right. We need to do better than that. Right.
A mile wide and an inch deep.
Right. And so when they're saturating the social media, platforms, it's really hard for us to get those messages out. So again, that's why we need a Democratic press secretary who's in front of the same media that's covering the press briefings every day. The same media that gathers to cover Caroline needs to gather and cover a Democratic press conference. Right. On the same day, the same audience. And then then everything is served to the American people. And here it is. This is what we're telling you. This is what happened. This is the truth. You get to decide how you feel about it. We're not going to tell you how. Because it's facts and truth that's going to help you live a better life. So that'd be great. As we reach
the tail end of today's show, and exactly. I want to remind everybody, go to TaraDublinRocks.com. Also, subscribe to her Substack. Also,
yes, please.
Buy a copy of The Sound of Settling, and
don't forget about the Tara Show. There's a Tara show now.
The Tara
Show
Squared
on Tuesdays. Tara Squared. It's Tara Devlin and I. every Tuesday and Thursday on your Political Voices Network YouTube at 2 p.m. on the East Coast, 11 a.m. on the West Coast. We are live Tuesdays and Thursdays. And we've been having a really lively chat going. And maybe we'll even expand to 3. Who knows? Who knows? But what I do know is that we would love to have you join us for the truth delivered Tara style.
Little bit of good news though. Let's go out on a piece of good news that I know you personally will enjoy. The fact that Elon Musk has sold Twitter to XAI, sold X to XAI in a stock swap.
Sold it to himself? Is that his own AI company?
He bought for stock in XAI. So because his investors were getting squirrely that income is down. Wait for it. 70%. He bought it for $44 million. He bought it for $44 million. Income of the site is down 70%. And he to keep his investors from calling in their marker, he sold it to XAI, which has a bigger valuation for stock in it. So everybody who bought into X with him, including Sean fucking P. Diddy Combs. So congratulations, anybody who uses Grok now. You're making money for P. Diddy to fight his fucking legal battles. And the Saudis. Never. So the Saudis now own a chunk of Grok. Let's start there as well. But
that's great.
On Friday, XAI has acquired the social media app. By the way, if there was any question that he's using shitter to train his AI, sorry, terms of service have drastically changed over at that fucking dump now. But he goes, this is Musk trying to prevent his Twitter investors from losing money, and highlights his eagerness to meld different parts of his corporate empire, which is fucking stupid, because one of the things you do about in the world of technology and in business is that if you have different businesses, you firewall them from each other as much as fucking possible. And if you don't believe me, look at banks and credit default swaps as of 2008. You stupid motherfucker. But then Musk said that the all-stock merger, so no cash, all bullshit. This is all just based on the alleged value of XAI's chat. Like, fucking gorgeous. All right. At 80 billion.
Smoke and
mirrors. X at 45 minus the 12 billion of debt. A source familiar with the situation said a combined the company would be valued at XAI plus X, absent some small adjustments. Nonsense. For context, he paid $44 million, blah, blah, blah. Marked the shares down by 70%, and XAI recently raised $50 billion in a fundraising round, which is way under what every other company with an AI has done. There are startups who just got $9 fucking billion.
Please. How do I fundraise $50 billion?
Right. Well, you create an AI that writes sequels and episodes and automatically generates sound of settling action figures.
Fanfic.
Okay, but wait,
action figures and fanfic. That's great. Yeah.
Can I show you something? This is just fucking gorgeous.
Such a fucking
So what
it's
a dildo. Okay, so
kaboom. Yeah, no.
Oh wait,
he's so bad at everything.
This is year to date. Okay, this is year to date. Look, I love how it goes green for a second and still doesn't matter. 256.31. Now let me show you something. One of the things that they could point to, let's see if it did this here. Yeah. One of the things you could point to is that if you did like 1 month, ooh, that's bad. 5 days, it's always bad. Year to date, it was terrible. We've seen this a bunch of times. But because of the boost that came from the Trump election in November, this big jump up where it's cadavering from now, that it was always above the 6-month mark, because it was above the number before the election. Even still, it is now below that number. It is dipped below that number. These are the shares available because they released more of them. So the price down was all the way down at whatever, 213 was the absolute bottom. We're down here, but because there have been more like shares made available, the unit price comparatively has gone down. So it's just, this is the first time this whole fucking thing has been read. The whole, like, you are officially losing it, even more than before the big spike. and just ugly.
And how
just,
long will the board of directors at Tesla allow themselves to continue to be associated with a Nazi failure? Seriously, we're calling your vehicles swastikars. Every single one of those ugly fucking space Pintos was recalled because there was a thing that on the side of it that wasn't glued down properly and could become a projectile and impale people. So you're everything about you is failing. And so how long do you hold on to this guy? How long do you let this guy besmirch your brand? Because he bought you. He didn't create Tesla. He didn't build Tesla. He didn't invent
He didn't design
Tesla.
any of it.
He doesn't do shit. He just funnels money to make himself look like he's a smart guy, but he's not. And every business he's funneled money into has experienced failure, from Tesla to SpaceX to Twitter. Just like Trump. Every time Trump backed something, it immediately tanked. If you can bankrupt casinos, perhaps you shouldn't be revered as a businessman of any kind. So this is just Musk bankrupting a casino in the form of a car company. Because honestly, EVs should be printing money. That you should be able to, EVs should be a humongous runaway success, because it's the wave of the future, is trying to get off of, fossil fuels and moving into the future so that we don't continue to pollute the planet. EVs are great. Your EVs are fucking giant buckets of shit. And you are a ketamine cooked, unelected South African immigrant Nazi bureaucrat who is illegitimately and illegally Nepo baby, putting his filthy, disgusting, creepy alien freak hands all over our government. And you've been committing multiple crimes against the United States since day one. You have no standing here. Why isn't he in prison? I don't care how much fucking money you have. You're a criminal. You're a criminal. You commit crimes against the United States. You should go out like the Rosenbergs. That's how it should be. That's what should be happening to him right now. And if he was a melanated South African billionaire, he would not be best friends with Donald Trump. He would not be revered by MAGA.
He wouldn't admit it.
Owned by Putin.
No, he would not. He wouldn't admit it because Trump sells, condos to the Congolese, royals, but under the table. Let me tell you on this way out. This is futurism.com.
What the fuck is that? Just somebody took my brother's Tonka trunk from 1974 and repainted it and made
let me tell you something.
Biggened it. That's what
let me tell you something like hugely this is just glorious.
So satisfying.
When you've lost futurism.com as the dude who's supposedly going to take us to Mars so we can all breathe toxic dust, instead of, by the way, one of the Jupiter's moons, which might actually be worth terraforming, considering we know they have water and the like and are, just as valuable as staging points. Don't get me started. But wait, I love this title. Wait, why is the Cybertruck held together with glue? Was duct tape too expensive?
It's a valid question. Yeah, no, valid.
It
valid
is.
Question. Billionaire. Valid
this
question.
Is the,
why aren't you step
up?
This
is the 8th recall they've had to do.
What a
almost every Cybertruck, has been recalled, including, by the way, it would include. Fuck me. Hold on, real quick. Remember the dude that painted painted like Trump on his Cybertruck? Remember the guy who?
Right.
Yeah,
the one that got set on fire in front of the hotel. That one?
No. The guy who rolled up at Mar-a-Lago in this fucking Trump had a picture of tank. The Trump assassination thing.
Oh my god!
Remember?
The fakest fucking shit. Anybody who has that as their profile picture is widow fished.
Aiden Ross. That's who it was. I had to find this fucking stupid thing. What a douchebag. It's like, why would you?
Because they're in a cult. Because it's a cult. Because they have been told.
So fucking painful.
I mean, it's the cringy of all the cringing, like
Fucking,
it should the world should implode and then re-inflate after cringing that hard. But look at you.
Jesus.
Just say you have no penis whatsoever. Just say it. I mean, oh God,
This
so pathetic.
let me just say, and I feel like this is a good thing to end on. This Cybertruck would be part of the recall. This Cybertruck was recalled to have its shit glued back on with a different kind of glue. Like, they're not going to weld the motherfucker now. They are,
They're going to get Gorilla Glue instead of Elmer's this time. That's what they're going to do. That's what
imagine when this rolls in. Like, can you imagine being this dude, this troll dickhead, driving around and getting an email while he's self-driving, in traffic, listening to fucking Lee Greenwood dance remixes, telling him he has to bring this in for service because they used the wrong glue. $120,000
and then
minimum.
Do you turn around and say, okay, well, thank you for fixing my stupid truck and get back
derp.
What? And by the way, he looks like he's been pregnant for about 15 years. He looks like he's fit to pop like John Hurt in Alien. He really, I'm waiting I'm just waiting for a bunch of alien things to just spew from his mouth, and his body is left as like empty hole, like Mr. Creosote at the end of Meaning of Life, where it's nothing. He's just like, fuck off, I'm full. Yeah, no. I'm so done with him. I'm so done with him, and he's so pathetic, and he's sending out messages like, everybody's so mean to me. Everybody says mean things about me. My mommy says you need to stop bullying me. I mean, it's so pathetic, and I'm really tired of these overindulged Nepo baby billionaires getting to decide how we live. I'm so disgusted by all of it, and that's why we are here. That's why we have these conversations. That's why you do 800,000 shows a week. That's why, we're trying to get the truth to the people every single day. And that's why we want to go out on the road and go to where the people are who aren't going to sit down and watch the shows. Because if we don't do it, who will? Who's going to stand up? Leaving that vinyl on the side may help keep the side panels from falling off. I mean, honestly.
That's a consensus in the chat.
Maybe he wrapped his vehicle with that stupid thing because he was afraid other shit was going to fall off his car. So, yeah. $20 super chat if you can. Support the hands-off peaceful protests around the country. April 5th, next Saturday. That's right. We're going to be out in the streets again. Peaceful protest. Aw, thank you, Colleen. A super chat towards Tara's book fund.
I'll forward that to Tara. Yeah.
My birthday month is April is my birthday month. I am a Taurus through and through. My birthday is April 26th.
Boy, is she.
Every single day, boy, am I, look out. And so, I may be stubborn when it comes to things that I care about, but I am good at heart. I have a good heart, and I want everybody to be safe and healthy and happy and live a full, profitable and joyful life full of abundance. And that goes for MAGA kids as well. I don't want anybody to lose their lives or their livelihoods because of Donald Trump. And so I hope that if you're here in the chat today, come back and hang out with Tara Devlin and I tomorrow at 2 p.m. on the East Coast, 11 a.m. on the West Coast for the Tara Show. And we also do that on Thursdays. Sign up for my Substack, for Hal's Substack, for everybody on the Political Voices Network. We're here for you. You're here for us. So this is our community. This is how we get through it.
Absolutely. And anybody in Wisconsin, vote for Susan Crawford tomorrow in this special election for the Susan Crawford.
Florida people.
Remind everybody, Susan Crawford. Now one of the things that happens is Musk and Trump eat up so much of they suck in so much of the air in the room with their own names and stuff that people don't even know who the other candidate is. So that's one of the things we're also going to have to remember. Susan Crawford tomorrow, Wisconsin. Everybody, if you can, remember tomorrow, and I'll remind everybody in the afternoon, but I'll be on later in the day, so most of the election will be over in the center of the country, but I will be blue skying about it, etc. Remind everybody on every social you have that tomorrow vote Susan Crawford for the Supreme Court in Wisconsin.
That's right.
If they're in that area. Just remind them.
Right.
And that might be just enough. Now, I really do think we're going to start seeing the first wave like we have in some of the other special elections of people with Trump regret finally coming, you know, around to this.
Democrats are flipping very red districts. There was a special election in Pennsylvania. There was a guy who flipped a district that went for Trump like 17 points over. So if a Democrat in the middle of Pennsylvania can flip, we have to flip that seat. Matt Gaetz
that would be
and
so
Matt
good.
and Mike Waltz's seats. Matt and Mike. So the two real terrible MAGA people, we could flip those seats and get some standing in the House. And then that'll even give us a clearer path to increasing our majorities in 2026.
Exactly.
Because no matter what he does, he's not gonna take away the elections. We're gonna always push back against shit like that. So keep fighting on Wisconsin.
And again,
on Wisconsin.
Let me just say, if Trump decides he's going to run again because the Constitution allows him to, congratulations to Barack Obama on his third term.
Correct. I think Barack and Michelle should just run together in 2028.
Right,
make that
as
happen.
a married
Let
couple.
Mommy and Daddy run. Let them come back and run
Kill
shit
it.
because they did a great job last time. Anyway.
All right.
You guys be
Thank
good
you.
to each other. I hope to see you on the Tara Show and elsewhere.
Absolutely.
And have a good week. All right, you
All
guys.
right. Cheers.
Bye.
There she goes, ladies and gentlemen. And you guys, thanks so much for joining today. It's Hal Sparks Mornings, Mega Worldwide. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the stuff that does with the important things that you're supposed to do, because I'm a professional streamer. Beautiful streamer. And thank you guys for the super chats today. Appreciate the support. Patreon.com/HalSparks. Like, subscribe, etc. Whatever, all the other stuff I'm supposed to say. And I would like to remind everybody, if I could, let's see if I can show this again. Yeah, here it is. This is some good stuff, kids. This is too much. I'm having too much fun. That's it. That's the panels coming off. Just not what could possibly be wrong with a piece of fucking sheet metal flying off a vehicle going on the highway, let's say, and you got those bikers for Trump. Hey, bikers for Trump, how do you feel about being behind a Cybertruck on the freeway right now? How's that work out for you? How do you feel? I know I'd be avoiding these motherfuckers like crazy. Yeah. Because they're fucking rolling guillotines if you're on a motorcycle. So, bikers for Trump, I expect you to be making a very loud noise about these sheeses of pit rolling around on the fucking highway, decapitating your fellow bikers. And there we go. Chat room. Look at this big, beautiful chat room. So many people. Very popular. The show is very popular. And I'm going to fix Facebook today. That's what I have to do as soon as I get off the show. That's where I'm headed next. So it's just a technical difficulty with their permissions or something. I'll work it out. The thing. All right, I'll go. I'm getting my own walk-off music. It's disappointing. Credits, everybody. Look at those followers and subscribers. Thank you guys so much. All right. Thanks so much. We had more super chats than that, but I appreciate you guys a lot. There were a couple more that they not listed. Colleen and Joy and Carl, thank you so much. And of course, Osbjorn and Peter, we thank you very much.